Oh, as the church bells ring out in the background on this fine Sunday, I got some more metal to talk about in spite of the church bells. Daryl here. Just got done watching some videos of a local band. I won't reveal the name of this band yet because I'm going to have to talk about this at another time. I might have to bring Brian in on this one to discuss the merits of this local metal band. But in the meantime, let's talk about real bands. I don't mean that. Yes, I do. This past week was a good one for the most part. Had some really interesting albums. We'll start the week off talking about the album by the band Anciients, the new album Heart of Oak, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I don't know if you got that impression from the review. Crisis Alert. But it's a very interesting album with a lot of different styles kind of woven in. It's got a progressive rock element, black metal elements. It's got a lot going on. So I think they accomplished what they set out to do, and even better than that, it kind of showcases how labels really work. I mean, not in the business sense, but they're out on Season of Mist, and it's really interesting to see the bands that labels sign and how, the prediction process. How do you know what you're getting? Yeah, you've heard some stuff, but do you know what you're really getting? And Season of Mist does that time and time again, and they managed to get this Vancouver band signed, and Heart of Oak is easily one of the top 10 albums of the year so far, which, we're almost to the halfway point of the year already. Oddly enough, we're only, 59 days away or so. But definitely give the album a listen. The song The Longest River was the one that sealed the deal for me. It's really, it's long. It's 9 minutes long. And really, I really hate using the word epic to describe a song, but it really is. It's got, a lot of sweeping soundscapes, and I just think they do a great job bending and evolving in each song. So definitely give that a listen. Anciients, Heart of Oak. After that, we took an interesting turn with the new EP from the band Dementia Senex, which it did not impress overall, and mainly because the band just doesn't seem to know what they are yet. They border on styles, but it's not like a blending of styles as much as they're doing way too many things in way too short a time, and sometimes it just doesn't work. You can see that the talent is there, you can see that the ideas are there, but something's missing. And, it's unfortunate because they obviously have some talent there, and it's time to really flesh out what you're going to do with it. You can't just go on being vague for the rest of your career. They haven't been around that long, so it's not really all that big a concern, but 5 years in, it's time. It's time to make those decisions and figure out who you are and what you do. Now, a band who definitely has it figured out is a band who I might have referred to before as Aid, but I believe I'm informed it's A Day, and Brian reviewed this one. It's Roman-inspired death metal. And you can probably hear it in your head without ever hearing the album. You know about what it sounds like. No, you don't. You need to listen to the album because it's pretty amazing, and there's some really, really amazing riffs on here. I know Brian loved the shit out of it. He's been talking about it quite a bit, and I just started really getting into it, but you really have to check this one out. The name of the album is Spartacus, a name which we all know, but you have no idea what you're getting into. So definitely check that album out at your first leisure. You can also check it out on their Facebook, which is facebook.com/ I'll just say Aid Legions, ADE, but it's A Day Legions, apparently. And Brian has stated in his review, if you refuse to listen, he'll send Spartacus's shadow after you, which, now that's a threat. That's a threat that I fully support. Now, the biggest surprise of the week for me was the review that went up Thursday night for a Russian-born guitarist. Her name is Julia Kosterova. And, my experience in the past with guitar-driven solo albums has been a mixed bag. I think some people pull it off and some people don't. And the main sticking point usually is it a guitar album with just crazy solos and, oh yeah, by the way, there's some other instruments on there? or is it an album? And I think that Newt Smeets with his Project Masquerade project, Jeff Loomis since leaving Nevermore, guys like that have really figured out how to make a guitar-driven solo album that isn't all about wild solos. So Julia Kosterova does exactly that. She makes an album that paints her, number one, as a exceedingly talented guitarist, but also as a great band member. She has an amazing band with her on the EP, which includes Derek Sherinian, who played keyboards in Dream Theater, Marco Miniman, Brian Tichy. I mean, she's got, I mean, these people are all stars. And she fits in, and that's the key. It's not, the album doesn't start and it's like, oh, look at how fast I can play, look at the solo. She plays coherently, she plays cohesively, and the songs, all 4 songs on the EP, which is called Springs of Time, all 4 songs make sense. They make sense from start to finish. Yes, there are solos in there, and they're great, but it's not just about her playing, it's about how she comes together with the band. So bravo to Julia Kosterova for her Springs of Time EP. Definitely give that one a listen. I think you'll enjoy that as well. The week ended with a very interesting album by a one-man project known as Thy Raventhrone. Now this is a solo act from from a Finnish musician named Jani Kalin, and it's a very interesting EP. The name of the EP is End, and I hope it's not the end because there's a lot of good stuff going on here. But there are a few things to mention. Number one, the use of keyboards is kind of the key, pun intended, of the album, because they change tones from song to song. You know, one song it sounds like just eerie synthesizers, one song it's church organs, one song it's just flat out keys, and that's really the key, because he builds around that. And some of the songs are basically the same melody-wise, length-wise, but the keyboards change, and it just gives each song an entirely different mood, which is an amazing thing when you think about it. Just that small, subtle change in sound can completely evolve a track. The downside of the EP, unfortunately, or album, I guess it's a full album, the downside is the length of the tracks. I mean, some of them, we're talking 7, 8, 9 minutes, and it's a lot of the same melodies repeated through that 7, 8, and 9 minutes, and there's very little variation to be had, and I think that kind of makes the tracks kind of wear on you as you go along. Now, they're all very good, and those core melodies and those core instrumentals are pretty incredible, but you know, you can only hear the same thing repeated so many times before it's time to go to something different. So I look forward to seeing what he does next, because I think this is a good start for something else. So yeah, so that was the week that was, and you know, it's great. It's great to you know, see how bands change over time, and you know, this coming week we'll see a little bit more of that. Actually, in the coming weeks altogether, we're going to start to see more of the evolution of bands, because you know, it's things are changing, and a lot of bands are following suit, for better, for worse, you name it. But the next couple of weeks, I have a couple interesting ones to show to you guys, and you know, I guess we'll see what you guys think. But in the meantime, have the second half of the podcast that was supposed to be last week had some technical difficulties, so that's going to be up this Saturday. A little bit of conversation about Spotify and what it's doing for music, the bands themselves, and the industry. And you know, it's an opinion piece. I want to stress that this isn't all. I'm going on information that I've gotten both from their site and elsewhere, but you know, I just think it's worth talking about at this point as a viable option or not. But in the meantime, keep an eye out this week. We have reviews of the new albums from The Ocean, Drunar, the new EP from Jason Newsted and his band, as well as the band Trinacreus. And got a lot coming up, a lot of interviews and stuff on the horizon, and looking forward to showing you guys that. And this podcast should be responsible for our 100,000th view of the site, which might not seem like a big deal over the course of 2 years, but you know, it's pretty important to me and the people behind the scenes here. So, thank you guys for checking the site. Thank you for reading, listening, doing what you do, and for giving me lots of stuff to listen to. So, thank you again, and we will see you guys next week.